Hello, everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on December the 7th, 2015. And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and just start this one off with that opening segment, which, honestly, started out pretty good. It honestly started out pretty good, but it kind of took a turn for the worse towards the end. And not just because of who was going out there, just the way in and out playing off in the end. Um, the whole aspect of the League of Legends or not League of Legends, but League of Nations coming out, starting to run everybody down. Is like basically going through which nations were there. I liked where they were going with that, and I liked how they were presenting themselves. Though I find it interesting that the managers for like Alberto Del Rio, which I'll get into a little bit later, and Rusev played no role in this whatsoever. So it's like two separate storylines that are going on that each of these guys kind of have. So you have the Alberto Del Rio and Rusev and King Barrett, who's probably the only one in there that actually Sheamus and King Barrett are the only ones that don't have like dueling storylines going on in this in some way, shape, or form. And they're running down everything, and then they go off and say there's no four men in the WWE that could stand up to us, and that's when you get the Wyatt moment. And honestly, that was a great moment. Seeing the two of the teams in the ring at the same time, just even if it would have been like one night, and even if you don't even like how the League of Nations, who's in it, really works, it was just a really good spot to put the Wyatts in there in some way. Maybe even tease. I honestly don't think you should ever tease them as being faces. Just them going after whoever they feel like going after. They're not necessarily faces. They're not necessarily heels. They just go after whoever they feel like. Which they brought it. Then they went on their promo. Okay, I would say a pretty good promo from Bray Wyatt in there, and then this led to the Dudleys and Tommy Dreamer coming out. This is where I would say things took a turn, and not because of what the Dudleys promo was, because I felt their promo was good, and them introducing Rhino was really good. It's just the fact that Rhino's return gets overshadowed by Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and the Usos coming out afterwards, which led, unfortunately, and I'll say this unfortunately because I thought this was, in the end, not a very good idea, but they went with it, and I'll give them props and credit for at least trying in this case, but it was a bad idea in the end, which led to a 16-man fatal four-way elimination style tag team match. So four men on each team. In the end, it kind of just made for like a big cluster of everything, because the beginning of it was you could tag your teammates in as you will, like normal tag match, but it also works under fatal four-way rules. So each member of each team had to have a member in there in some way, shape, or form at all times. So it just kind of made the action a little bit hard to follow. It just did not come off all that well. They eliminated the Wyatts really quickly in there. And then the triple threat side was okay to the elimination of the Dudleys. I actually kind of liked how they set that one up to have Sheamus go over. And the second for 8-man, or the last portion with the 8-man tag being in there, was also pretty good. I liked how Sheamus played it off and tried to set himself up to be to mocking Roman Reigns, only to get speared in the end. I thought that came off really good at the end of the match, but the match as a whole was kind of this is hard to follow, especially right at the beginning of it. But that, like I said, it was a segment that started off really good, and it kind of went meh, or there's way too many people here at this moment in time. And that's probably more or less what it was. It was just too many people at one given time. You had another... I'm trying to think of what they're going with Sasha Banks, Naomi, and Tamina going up against Brie Bella and Alicia Fox. Obviously, they're playing it off that like Team Bad is the only United Divas team still around. Though honestly, in a storyline that would be not needing any teams at this point, it would probably serve best for people to for all of them to kind of be their own separate thing at this point in time. But we'll see where they go with everything here. This was kind of another, I would say, useless match. The tag match with Sasha Banks and Naomi going up against Brie and Alicia Fox. It wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. It was at least a good one. But what's its purpose? What's it serving? It's not like afterwards they were setting up some other storyline with it in there as well. It was just kind of like the match happened, and they're continuing to show the dominance of Team Bad at this point, which I guess in that case it's serving its purpose there, but it's not. It doesn't feel like it's serving a purpose in the grander scheme of things towards many of the Divas storylines, or maybe I'm just not getting this storyline now. I don't know. It just does not seem all that interesting at this point in time, at least to me. So I mean, we'll see where they go with everything and see how they set up Team Bad down the road, and especially what they're going to do whenever Nikki Bella gets back on the road again. So I mean, we'll see where they go with it. Obviously, because they have Paige, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte kind of teamed up together here in the terms of having a separate storyline as well. I don't know how they're gonna if they're gonna continue working Becky Lynch into that one, but the segment with Miz TV with Charlotte, Ric Flair, obviously the Miz, and then eventually Paige. I thought this promo was really good in setting up their match, though it doesn't necessarily say who the face or the heel is, which I do find kind of weird because Charlotte kind of plays herself off as a heel, though also kind of, downgrades Paige into being that heel because she was the one who turned her back on Charlotte at that point. But you also see kind of an attitude change from Charlotte as well. In the end, I felt it was a pretty good promo and sets up the match for Paige and Charlotte on Sunday a lot better than what they had been doing. So I mean, we'll see how the match turns out again on Sunday, but I felt this promo was pretty good. I liked the moment. It's like Ric Flair's just trying to get Charlotte to just walk away and save it for Sunday and everything like that, and then Paige slaps her, and then Ric Flair's like, "Get her!" And that's when they actually start brawling. Like, that segment did come off pretty good. It's just in certain ways with this promo, it's hard to say who's the face and who's the heel. So we'll see where they go with everything down the road here. Now this leads into everything else, and man, it's kind of interesting where they went with. Like I said, with the League of Nations thing, Lana and Zeb Coulter had played no role in it. In any way, and they did write off Zeb Coulter, at least from Alberto Del Rio, and probably going back to Jack Swagger in some way, with Jack Swagger after Jack Swagger's match with Stardust, which they're doing this weird thing with Titus O'Neil as well, with him and Stardust. I don't know where they're exactly going with that, but you always get a Stardust promo backstage in his little star room or the Universal room, whatever he fully calls it, and then Titus interrupts him in some way. So I don't know where they're exactly going with that, but we'll see how that one fully pans out as well. But also you had Alberto Del Rio attack Jack Swagger after the match, and then they get the dueling chair spot, which basically means they're going to have some kind of chairs match at the pay-per-view. And the whole aspect of of Alberto Del Rio stumbling over Zeb Coulter's scooter and then him blaming Zeb Coulter backstage and, basically berating him the entire time, setting up this whole aspect that, Zeb is going to be leaving Alberto Del Rio, if not that was the full way of doing it, and then more likely going back to Jack Swagger in some way, shape, or form for this pay-per-view match. And honestly, the end of that segment came off pretty good. The match with Stardust and Jack Swagger was all right as well. Oddly enough, though, they used it as a way to build Jack Swagger and give him a little bit more credibility going into his pay-per-view match. So we'll see how everything rolls off with that. Rusev going up against Ryback again. And they're obviously playing off a full feud between the two of them. And they are obviously, with how everything was going on the outside of WWE, they're not going to be getting rid of Lana and Rusev anytime soon as being together. So I like the way they played that off. I like the match itself was really pretty darn good between the two of them. Some decent high spots, or especially different spots that you'd never seen from Ryback before. Him doing a leap over the rope, abyssal drop kick, which you've seen a few times before, but it's still a little weird to see him doing it. But I like the setup at the end with it. You have Rusev running from Ryback. Obviously Ryback's chasing, and Lana gets in the way and pretends to be injured, setting up Ryback to get beaten down at the end of the night. I thought that came off pretty good in my mind. But again, this is coming off of the aspect that, like I was saying at the beginning, like so many of these guys have, it seems like, two storylines. Like obviously Rusev has a storyline with Ryback, but he's also in this League of Nations storyline that's going up against Roman Reigns, who also has Dean Ambrose and the Usos, but Dean Ambrose is in a storyline with Kevin Owens, who they played off another storyline in there with after Kevin Owens' match, was a really good match with Dolph Ziggler, and basically and Dean Ambrose interrupting him, basically just trying to get into Kevin Owens' head going into his pay-per-view match. Same with the Usos. They're part of this thing going up against League of Nations, but they also have this storyline with the New Day or they have a match storyline with the New Day and the Lucha Dragons setting up for the tag team title match. So you saw them, you saw these guys multiple times within the night. In some cases, they had two matches. Like Tommy Dreamer had a match with Braun Strowman afterwards as well. There was just a lot going on throughout the entire night in the terms of just the same guys. So I don't necessarily consider that a good thing, that you have all these guys, or you have a lot of this time and you're conjoining like multiple storylines to multiple, or you have like certain people but with multiple storylines throughout the night. Like the Usos have a multiple storyline, Alberto Del Rio has a sub storyline, Rusev has a sub storyline, Dean Ambrose has a sub storyline going in there, but they're also part of this League of Nations versus Roman Reigns thing as well. And then, of course, the ending segment of the night with Roman Reigns and Sheamus's brawl, which honestly was a good brawl. I found the brawl entertaining. It ended the exact same way that the brawl with Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns ended, with him just spearing Sheamus through a table, just like he did Bray a while back. So it ended about the same way there. But overall, decent brawl. So overall this week for Monday Night Raw, confusing Raw, because not only do you have to deal with the whole League of Nations storyline with these guys, but you have to go with their other storylines as well, and trying to continually follow that throughout the entire night. It's like, and certain people don't even play a role within that League of Nations area. Like obviously Zeb Coulter and Alberto Del Rio aren't going to be on the same side anymore, but you still have like Rusev and Lana. They have their storyline with Ryback, but Lana doesn't even play a role inside of the League of Nations area. It's honestly, in the end, a bit confusing. Not completely confusing in the end, but it can be a little bit hard to follow for some fans, I would think. I feel like I was able to follow a good conjuncture throughout the night, but still found certain areas like, oh yeah, that's right, they were also doing this and doing that. And I mean, we'll see how the pay-per-view comes off Sunday. I think they did a pretty good they did a decent job of setting it up, but you also have like like I said, these guys with multiple storylines going on at the exact same time, it can be a little bit confusing to keep up with which one is going to be happening and who's going to be actually having matches with who going into Sunday at that point in time. So that is my review this week for Monday Night Raw, guys. Overall, again, I would kind of say it was an okay show. Could be confusing in certain areas, keeping up with certain storylines in the terms of, the same people having multiple storylines in some way, shape, or form. So that is my review this week for Monday Night Raw, and I thank you guys for watching.